So I used to hate thrifting. I used to really, really hate thrifting. I started thrifting, well, for the first time rather, I went thrifting when it was really hot, like when it was really trendy. And thrifting's obviously still popular to this day, but I'm sure some of you remember around like between 2017 and 2019 when it was like things were becoming like, oh my God, I'm going thrifting. Everyone's making TikToks about how they were thrifting or whatever as TikToks are getting big and all that stuff, right? And because of that, at least here in New York, all the thrift shops were like, okay, we are going to call this 2004 shirt that is ripped and says champion on it vintage and make it $100, right? So I hated it. I remember the first time I went actually was with a girl, and I, of course, strategically said I love thrifting and that I go thrifting all the time. She was very confused when I didn't buy anything because I went for the first time there and I was like, this is just the worst thing ever. Like, why would I pay this money, right? Over the years though, I've learned to actually really like thrifting. My shorts right now that I'm wearing are thrifted. My trusty golf shorts that I've used a total of 1 time to actually golf. Love the green. Are thrifted right now. I love thrifting because one, I'm broke, don't have that much money, so it's good. It's good stuff, you know. If you ever see me wearing something expensive, like I got this one nice crew neck from Our Legacy, that's thrifted. That was like $50, right? I like thrifting online, right? Why am I saying all this? You guys don't care that much about my thrifting journey. What's the point of this whole conversation here? Well, I think thrifting's interesting. I've come to really appreciate it over the years because I think it brings fashion down to its core, right? There's obviously, I don't think it's a hot take to say, a certain art to fashion. Fashion is sort of an art form in itself, right? But it's not an art form in the most direct way, at least not you getting dressed. Of course, there is fashion as high art when, you know, we have the runway shows and all these things. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about you getting dressed in the morning is a type of art, right? That's an art form. It's not an art of creation though, right? You're not waking up every morning and sewing a new pair of pants and, you know, being like, what do I feel today? And being like, I feel jaggedy, so I'm going to do a jaggedy ridge. It's not an art form in that way. It's not the most direct form of self-expression, but it's self-expression through curation, right? So for an example, I mean, this is obviously not the most bold way of self-expression at all, but I wore this watch today because I was in the mood to wear this watch. However little or big you deem that to be, that is self-expression in some sense, right? It's an art of curation, not creation. Of course, that doesn't make it any less of an art, but that's how it works, right? Sometimes this can be muddied, right? I think we can all relate to the example of you going to the mall and getting something new and then walking into school the next day and everybody else was wearing it. And you were like, well, what the fuck, right? I thought this Big Bird sweater that I got in H&M was wholly unique. I thought I was the first and last guy to ever see this thing. And then you're like, why is this guy got the Big Bird sweater and he's slightly better looking than you? So everybody's like, oh my God, you're so funny wearing that Big Bird sweater. And they look at you and they're like you're a freak for having a Big Bird sweater. That's just a random story I came up with. That didn't actually happen, of course. I don't know anything about that, but we can all relate to that, right? Going to the mall, you get something, and you're like, why isn't this as unique as I thought it was, right? And that's because part of the curation is being done for you. I mean, what stores are in the malls in America? You got your H&Ms, you got your PacSuns, you got a Uniqlo. If you're lucky, Uniqlo's are solid stuff at Uniqlo. I was actually surprised the first time I really went to a mall outside of New York that just all the exact same things were in the malls in Texas. And I was like, what, guys, what? There's also Urban Outfitters, you know, these stores, right? These stores are curating for you. Oftentimes, like in the case of an Urban Outfitters or an H&M, they're just going to curate what's trendy. In the Uniqlo, they're going to curate you very basic items. Shout out to Uniqlo. I like Uniqlo quite a bit, like I said. But they're doing much of the work for you in curating, right? And I think that is, you know, one of the things I always hated on my fashion journey. As a pretentious guy, I was like, I want to be more unique than this, right? After the incident with the Big Bird sweater, I was like, I want to wear stuff that doesn't make me stand out. You know, I've never wanted to be the guy throwing on like some designer clothing. That's not me at all. But I was like, I want to like have my own thing. I want to be able to be like, this is a cool thing I found, right? I'm sure some of you might notice I still do this in certain ways. I'm not a fashionista by any means, but I still do have little things where I'm like, I like to, have a little thing here, a little thing there that's a little bit more unique, right? How could I do this, though? For a while, it was finding niche brands online. But eventually, I came to the conclusion that the most pure way to do that was through thrifting. And I want to actually choose my words kind of carefully, because it is very possible to go thrifting and end up looking like everyone else. I mean, I know some of you might be familiar with 2nd Street. They're like is it 2nd Street? Maybe it's 2nd Street, or there's like a bunch of L trains, right? These chain thrift stores oftentimes will leave you wearing the exact same items as everybody else. You'll find a lot of vintage Calvin Klein in L trains, from what I remember. I've only been in those like twice. And, when speaking about fashion as curation, right? If you want to have a good outfit, it would by that you want to be able to curate all the pieces yourself in the most specific form. That's where brands are kind of limiting, right? And that's why I learned to love thrifting, because I think thrifting is sort of this curation in its purest form. And I mean that in literally every single way, right? There's, of course, the idea that when you go to a brand, you're going to be seeing their general style. I think this is more true of designer brands than anything else. I really am not that tapped into the designer space because I don't have the money to afford the designer space. I have some friends, though, who are really interested in it. And I know, for example, my friend was showing me Martine Rose recently. Really cool clothes there. But they have a style, right? They curate it on their site. You see their logo everywhere. You see everything from the fonts they use to the style of imagery they use. And most of all, you see it on the model, styled with other pieces, right? Maybe, and honestly, probably, you are still curating these pieces for yourself. You're deciding, what do I like here? What's my style? But no matter what, you are going to be slightly influenced by the ethos of the brand that's being presented to you. That is a way in which they take away freedom of curation, right? This is why I think thrifting is the purest form of curation. How do you see these clothes? You see them wrinkled on a floor. There is no way to put that into an ethos other than your own. You can't look at, sometimes people model them on themselves, and honestly, I've seen people do this on like Depop. Don't know how you guys have the confidence for this. It horrified me to do that. However, shout out to you. Either way, most of the time you're seeing it wrinkled on a floor, you're seeing it on a hanger, you're seeing it in these very basic spaces, isolated, so the only option is to, in your mind, put it onto yourself. I thought I just got paint on my shorts and I looked down, but I thought that was a little bit distracting, so I have to shout it out now and veer the whole conversation off, of course. There's no paint on the shorts. Anyways, that's a reason why I think thrifting is so interesting, right? Because it forces you to take these pieces and put them only in your own mind, only in your own ideas, and fully curate your own outfit, right? I think that this is why thrifting is so popular in many regards. Of course, there's other things, like just the fact that it started trending, the affordability of it, which is a huge reason I do it, but also the specificity. I do like going to thrift stores, especially if I'm traveling. I always like checking out a thrift store. The downside of that is I always end up buying something and then not wearing it because I was like so in the moment. I was like, oh my God, I'm here in this city and I'll never be able to find anything like this again. And then I buy it and then I don't really like it that much when I get home. Either way, that's besides the point. The point is that I do enjoy going to thrift stores, but I really like doing it online because of this. Because one, you're forced to see it in this very isolated example. And also because you can get super specific. You know, if you're in a thrift store and you find some brown shorts like I'm wearing right now, I don't know if you guys can see them. They're great shorts, and if you want to tell me that, I wouldn't be mad. But if you're in a thrift store and you find some brown shorts, you'll be like, okay, I found the brown shorts, I'll buy these, right? If you're online and you want to keep looking for months for the perfect pair of brown shorts that I did here and wait till you can get a deal, you can do that. That's why I really do like online thrifting. I think it's really good for that reason. What's the point of all this thrifting talk, though? 20 minutes into this episode, we're about to break it down. I think this is what so much of art is nowadays, right? And this is true of many arts. I mean, painting, in a sense, is curation just as fashion is, right? I have to curate the colors, I have to curate the brushes I'm going to use. Most of it, though, is what do I choose to depict on this canvas, because I only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 brushes, one of which I can't use because it's way too big, and I have not figured out how to clean it right yet. I only have so many paints. I've only been able to buy paints when they're on sale on Amazon in like the starter kits, right? And these canvases are 8x10, they're $1 a piece, or 8x8, they're $1 a piece, right? Do I have control over the curation of this? Yes, but most of this is just what do I choose to put on the canvas. Maybe one day I'll have more opportunity to curate if I'm a very fortunate and lucky person in my life, right? But when it comes to something else, right? Let's say something like graphic design, which is what I do for my day job. That is all curation. You are finding assets, or you are taking assets from other photographers, or you know, maybe you are occasionally, depending on the project you're working on, going out to get your own assets, and you're mixing them all together. You're finding fonts other people have made, and you're slightly adjusting them to be to your liking to work for your project, just as you find a belt in a thrift store and go, how can I kind of, you know, cut this little piece here to make this work, or you're like, I don't quite want this belt, I'll switch out the belt buckle. That's just how graphic design works. So what's the lesson? Oh, thrifting's curation and graphic design's curation? No, that's not what I'm saying at all. Thrifting, great, but more specifically, I'm talking about the online thrifting, because it's putting all these pieces on equal playing fields. When I view an Amazon Basics t-shirt the same way that I view an Our Legacy crew neck, it causes me to look at these two pieces as equals, despite the fact that one is made with very different technique and all around, I mean, just higher quality, right? I think you need to, we all, not you, me too, because I'm still trying to do this, we need to apply this to how we create. When you see pieces, I think it's a great thing to take them all and put them on an even playing field. You're going to be affected in many ways to do this, to not do this, rather, right? You're going to see a very famous person wearing a piece or a certain color, and you're going to be like, this color is the best thing ever, right? A huge example of this is Charlie XCX just had that album Brat, right? And that Brat green got used in every marketing campaign last year. None of them were able to do it as well as her because they were influenced by what she was doing. They went, this worked so well for her, it must be this color, right? And they took the color because they were jaded in their perspective of it, and maybe it made them a buck or two, but nobody did it like she did because it was so much more than the color, right? It was the ethos she built around this. I feel like I've said ethos a million times today. We all need to take the elements that we see out in the world and put them on an even playing field. Take the sign you see for the bodega and be like, this font is just as valuable as what that designer brand used in their last campaign. You need to take all these things and put them there because that's how the best curation can be done. If you are in a curated space, I think another great example of this is in writing. You're curating words when you're writing. Of course, you're creating a story, you're stringing things together to paint your own picture, but you're curating words. When you decide the word fantastic versus incredible, you are curating, right? You can, if I say this is an incredible brush versus this is a fantastic brush, the same general point is across, but I'm curating the word choice there to give you a slightly different image. Maybe you'll think of the Incredible Hulk versus the Fantastic Four, and now you associate this with green or blue, and you would associate it with red, right? There's so many ways in which curation can affect our creation. And I think that the best way to do it is to remove all biases. Low art, high art, graffiti, bodega signs, all these things need to exist on the same playing field. Because when you're willing to steal like an artist, steal from every single aspect of this, I think it leads to the most different and new art being created. This is the painting. Had an idea and didn't come out good. I think the third face was a mistake. I think it's close to being cool, and I want to try it again. Yeah. Interesting, though. Go follow over to the Instagram. This painting will be up on Sunday with all the other paintings from the week. I've stopped posting the reels over on Instagram just because I really just want to use it for a platform to post maybe the paintings as they come along, some special projects as they come out later this year, and just like generally Instagram content. I really don't like the short form on there. I'm going to do short form mostly on TikTok from now on. And until next time, guys, gals, and pals, my name is Max Seiss. This has been Paint and Talk episode 163. I'm here every morning, painting and talking with you all.